And it's actually his birthday today. On his right is Mike Vasey, who's the founder of Vintech, which is a company that looks after these vintage engines. On his left is Steve Bowhill-Smith, a former Concorde pilot, who's had what must be any aviator's best day out, where one day he went and flew a Spitfire Mark 9 in the morning before piloting Concorde to New York that very same day. Steve is shortly to be the pilot in the C-54 Skymaster, which made its first rollout out of North Weald yesterday, first in 10 years, and indeed the Skymaster Society has a stand here today. Leading the second Vic in the middle of the pack is Jonathan Turnbull, a retired airline captain, and he's flying the oldest Tiger Moth in existence, Tiger Moth having been built between 1931 and 1945. On his right is Robin Russell, again a former Royal Air Force fighter pilot. He was initially on 7 Squadron with Canberras, and then flew Strike Masters with the Sultan of Oman's Air Force, before moving on to 19 Squadron on Phantoms at Wieldenruff. He's now a flying instructor on Tiger Moths at White Waltham. In the number 5 position is Duncan Green, who learnt to fly on the Tiger Moth and is now a senior first officer with British Airways on the Boeing 777. And then the final two, I would say, after we've gone and had this fly past, is again the glorious sound. They come by in Big Vic formation. And delayed on the final two is their last but most certainly not least. In the number 7 position, flying my aircraft, is Jerry Rendell, formerly of London University Air Squadron on Chipmunks. He then went on to an illustrious airline career, flying the DC-10 and finally being a captain on Concorde. But the number 8 top man, David Sister, who was in the 56 Squadron at the period, and 29 Squadron, then a central flying school on the Nat, then an instructor at Valley on the Nat and the Hunter, then the 43 Squadron, Lucas on Phantoms, and he's flying a Tiger Moth which is camouflaged exactly as they would have been during the Second World War. I was going to say, we're talking about the construction is so simple that they can be made by motor car companies, and his, like mine, was built by Morris Motors. And this actual aircraft was stationed at Penderfoot, which is 6 miles east of here, with number 28 Elementary Flying Training School. And David's sister actually flew a Tiger Moth in 1978 from Britain to Australia, solo and unsupported. Now you'll notice our 2 Concorde men have dropped out of the pack, and they're now charging towards you. Keep your eye on those 2. Get your cameras ready for the opposition break. And here they go. In the red aircraft is Jerry Rendell, in the camouflage, David's sister. They will now turn and charge towards one another like a pair of medieval knights, and they will get pretty close. So you'll have to be quick with your shutter to catch this. Here they come. That's close. Now cast your eyes up to the main pack. They're in arrow formation, they're diving towards you, they're building up speed to 110 miles an hour. For the bomb burst, get your cameras ready. And here they break. Lovely sign, like fireworks going off. Now the team will form itself up into 2 long lines, and they'll charge towards each other, very much like the synchro pair did earlier, except this time they've got multiple aircraft to miss. And again, worth a photo. Now the key thing about the Tiger Moth, why it was so important to the Royal Air Force, is that it's an easy aircraft to fly, but it is a difficult aircraft to fly well. It has sluggish controls, it has a high centre of gravity, its wheels are close together, so it's difficult to taxi it, especially with a crosswind. You've got limited visibility over the nose, it's got no flaps, it's got no starter motor, you have to swing the propeller by hand, it's got no brakes, you have to have chocks, wooden chocks in front of the wheels before you start. It truly is chocks away. Look how close they're getting, this is wonderful. And because it's a difficult aircraft to fly well, it helps weed out those who've got no ability, those who've got some ability, and those who've got fantastic ability. And it's built mostly in Britain, but also in Canada and Australia and New Zealand, and under license in Portugal, Sweden and Norway. And indeed the Norwegian ones were then captured by the Nazis and put into German camouflage and markings. Now the team is going to fly in one line from left to right, and as with all the displays today, if you enjoyed it, please give them away. There's nothing like it, so we are truly happy, but they have two ways, and in this spot we will not way back to you. We made a radio-controlled version of this aircraft for gunnery practice, both from the land and from ships. And also help with getting people to learn how to do offset shooting. So you shoot ahead of the aircraft, so the bullets will have to use it by the time we get up to the aircraft from the body at the point it's fired. And they've got 400 of those, and it will be no surprise to you at all that of those 400, only 3 now exist. And indeed, after the war, these went on to equip the University Air Squadrons, and indeed, University of Birmingham Air Squadron had them until 1950, when they changed to Chipmunks. We'll be seeing a Chipmunk later in the show, but the Air Squadron wasn't based here at the time, so we actually haven't had them based here at Cosford. But they make a remarkable link between the very early aircraft we've just seen and the later, more modern ones we'll see later in the show. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes the display by the Tiger 9.
Well, Tim, thank you very much. As ever, a very impressive display of this very important aircraft in Royal Air Force history. I mentioned earlier that we do have a large number of RAF training aircraft, both fixed wing and rotary, on display for you today, and this certainly, from RAF gone by, a very, very important aircraft. So just a few moments while we let the Tiger team land on. If you have just arrived, a very warm welcome to the Royal Air Force Cosford Air Show 2018 in this very special 100th year for the Royal Air Force. Can I please remind you to make sure you're putting plenty of suntan cream on, you're drinking plenty of water, you're keeping your property with you at all times, you're not dropping any litter. Please help us keep Cosford nice and neat and tidy. So we are about to move on to the last display in the first 25-year segment. A very special item indeed. And when we look back, the Royal Air Force nearly didn't survive to its first birthday. The war to end all wars was over, just over 7 months after the Royal Air Force was formed. We certainly needed the Army and the Navy to protect the mainland and also the Empire, but the Air Force, at the end of the First World War, the British Empire was at its largest and most unruly. I think the discussion about the rights and wrongs of an empire is for another day, but whilst we had the Empire, it needed to be policed, a job that had always been done by the Army. And as you can imagine, that was a huge task. So almost in an attempt to keep the Air Force alive, to keep it in existence, the idea of actually using the Royal Air Force to police the Empire was floated by Chief of the Air Staff, Lord Trenchard. It was argued that a few aircraft could do the same job as thousands of ground troops, and this would be a very cost-effective way of controlling large areas that would normally be controlled by conventional land forces. So Lord Trenchard put the idea into practice in 1920 when the RAF and the Imperial Ground Unit defeated rebels from Army Land Unit. Following here, 1921, the RAF was given responsibility for all the defences in Iraq. The number of tactics we used during this policing role, sometimes just showing that an aircraft was airborne was enough to quell